There's another important race. There's a lot of important races, but I can only handle so many at a time. And that's in Michigan. The incumbent is Representative Elisa Slotnick, who is endorsed by Liz Cheney. That should tell you plenty. And she's running against Tom Barrett, state senator. Tom Barrett, how are you, sir?
Good, Mark. Thank you so much for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. And, you know, Slotnick reminds me of about 20 or so Democrats all over the country, where she poses as this moderate, bipartisan, open-minded thinker, a little here, a little there. And she's not. She votes down the line left wing. Am I right about that?
You are absolutely correct. And it's probably the biggest farce that you see is every one of these Democrats, when it gets tough, they go out and say that they're one thing, but then their voting record suggests something totally different. She told every voter that she was going to be an independent, moderate, sensible voice in Congress, and she has voted 100% with Joe Biden and nearly 100%, like 98 or 99% with Nancy Pelosi. Her voting record is indistinguishable from any one of these left-wing liberals in Congress. In fact, she has a more certain voting record with Joe Biden and Pelosi than, Rashida Tlaib and the rest of the squad does.
Now, that's amazing. And yet she poses as a moderate. I'm guessing she gets a lot of free media attention, even some conservative media, but not a lot, pretend that she's some kind of moderate. Just because they say they are doesn't make it so.
Right. You're exactly right. In her voting record, like I said, I tell people, I'm like, look at her actual voting record, because she'll go out and say whatever she wants. In fact, Nancy Pelosi was just here in Michigan last week, and my opponent was nowhere to be found because she wanted to pretend that she wasn't aligned with Pelosi, but her voting record is. And they asked Nancy Pelosi about that, and Pelosi said, well, just go out and say whatever you need to say to get elected. So she gave them permission to go out and say whatever it takes. We need everybody's help, though, to get across the finish line. We've got just a week left to win this race. I'm a conservative. I have a conservative voting record in the Michigan State Senate, a background in the Army. I just retired this year after 22 years in the Army, deployed around the world. In fact, I deployed to Iraq as part of Dick Cheney's war there. And what do I have to show for it? His daughter, Liz Cheney, coming here to endorse my opponent. They want this perpetuation of this war hawk, war first, America last posture that gets us into international conflicts. People can go to my website, TomBarrettForCongress.com. I could use all the help we can get, because literally, Mark, the Democrats are spending more money in this district where I'm running than anywhere else in America. My race is now the most expensive in the country. Close to $30 million has already been spent, and we've still got a week left to go.
That is stunning. You must really be a threat to the Democrat Party and the establishment in Washington.
We are, and, I'm just a regular guy. I'm a dad with 4 kids. Joined the Army right out of high school, had never even been on an airplane in my life. And you contrast that with my opponent, who went to Ivy League schools. She went to the most elite private boarding school in Michigan. My school that I went to growing up, we would take field trips to her school because of all the amenities they have there. So I'm not of the pedigree that they are, and they feel threatened by that. I'm just a regular guy, an Army grunt. Had the adventure of my life serving in the Army over the last 22 years. Like I said, I had never even been on an airplane when I joined. Took the first airplane ride of my life to basic training. And by the time I retired, they had taught me how to fly helicopters, and I had logged over 1,000 hours as a helicopter pilot. You can only do that in America, and they're threatened by that. It's why I'm running for Congress, is to bring a voice to families like mine and the families that have had no voice in Congress. And like I said, people can learn more about me at TomBarrettForCongress.com. If they can send us a contribution, help us get over this finish line. They're spending $1 million a week against me right now, and our polls are neck and neck. We just need a little more help to get this over the finish line.
TomBarrettForCongress.com. Tom, Barrett for Congress. And of course, I want to support you very, very strongly, because I think this will send a big message, and I think the people of your district deserve somebody who actually represents them and doesn't pretend to. Give us an idea of what your district looks like, the different towns and so forth.
Sure. So the central geographic city of where my district is located is Lansing, Michigan, our state capital. And then it has most of the surrounding communities and counties around that. Charlotte, Michigan, where I live, spelled like Charlotte. We pronounce it Charlotte here in Michigan. But other surrounding small towns and rural communities, DeWitt, Owasso, St. John's, Howell, Brighton, Lansing, Okemos, Mason, Michigan. These are all, vibrant small towns and communities in Michigan. But I'll tell you, Lansing, our capital city, the central point of this district, rose as high as the 9th most dangerous city in America on the FBI ranking list. Another indicator of the failures of this administration and those that enable them, like Alyssa Slotkin, through unsecure border policies, failure to hold prosecutors accountable who won't enforce the law. Alyssa Slotkin, my opponent, co-sponsored the bill that allows criminals to make it easier for them to sue police officers like my younger brother. And those are just policies that are not making America safer. It's what we have to do to change the tide. America's on the wrong track, and really, that's why I'm running, is to put us back on the right path. I left my career in the Army to do this, and, I'm fully committed to it because America is still worth saving.
Now, the big issues are obviously the economy, gasoline prices, inflation, and so forth, and crime. And as I see it, the Democrats broke what was working, and they have no intention of fixing it just by their own response. They blame everyone but themselves, or they pretend that they're different than the rest of the party and so forth. Is that pretty much what's happening there?
You're exactly right. And I ask people as I'm out and about, I say, if the Democrats were trying to make it worse, what would they have done differently? Because everything they've done has brought us to this position that we're in now, where gas has more than doubled in price just in the last 2 years, where crime is now surging, where the border is unsecure. I mean, this probably is the first administration ever to consciously unsecure our border and move us backward and make us less secure. The withdrawal of Afghanistan. I mean, like I said, I committed 22 years of my life to the Army, and I really was motivated to run after watching that disastrous withdrawal, where Joe Biden allowed the Taliban to be placed in charge of security for our troops. 13 Marines get killed, dozens more get injured, and Alyssa Slotkin and Liz Cheney do nothing to hold the administration accountable on the Armed Services Committee.
I think you'd be a fantastic member of the House of Representatives for the whole country. Tom Barrett, ladies and gentlemen, for Congress.com. Tom Barrett for Congress.com. Help him if you can, please, and vote early. Thanks for calling in, my friend.